Hey everybody, my name is Nick, and today I am going to go over our biggest update yet for the app. The first part of this video is just going to go over the smaller changes that we've made, and then we'll get into the big stuff, which includes a brand new file type called the Manuscript, along with some major overhauls of existing file types. Starting off, you're going to notice that there is a header at the top of the project view. In the header, there are two menus. One is the account menu, which has all of your basic account options from before. And then we have the settings menu, which has all of the preference options that were previously available. Then on the left side, we have this back arrow, which just allows you to jump back to your projects grid if you want to switch to another project or something like that. The next thing you'll notice is that the drawer has been totally overhauled. Its look is going to be different, but there's also going to be a good bit of added functionality as well. Starting out, we have a new file button here rather than down in the middle, as well as a new folder button. As you might guess, clicking the new folder button will create one in your current directory, and then clicking the new file button will do the same thing. We've also created a way that you can now favorite files. For example, if you right-click on a file and click Favorite, see this little gold star appear, and if you click on this button, it will now display all the files in your project that are favorited, very similar to any other kind of favorite system. This next button will simply allow you to display all of your files by the time that they were added, with the most recent files at the top. The other thing you'll notice is that we now have a couple different view options for the drawer, where the top button is the default view that you're used to, and then this button is for the list view. And as you can guess, it displays your files as a list. You also get some other information, such as seeing the tags associated with those files and if they are favorited. Another general change we've made that's kind of hard to see is we've improved the performance of a lot of the different file types and things like resizing the windows. Sometimes if you had a big project, it would get a little bit slower, even on a fast computer, if you were trying to resize it. It wouldn't be as smooth as we intended. So we optimized that performance quite a bit. A couple other small notes before we jump into the big stuff. One of those things is, you'll see up here, if you click on the file header, you can actually change the name of the files from this view. Just a little convenience thing. That's the same name all over again. And then in addition to those small things, we have done a ton of quality of life and bug fixes that aren't really going to be listed in the updates description just because there's so many, but that's just something to be aware of. Now, let's get into the big boy right here, and that is going to be a new file type. You click here, you will see the Manuscript. So the idea of the Manuscript is to allow you to compile your writing into one big manuscript. This is going to work with text files. You can't put grids and cards and things like that into the manuscript. It's going to be text files, and you'll see why here in a second. So what you can do is, after you've written your scenes or chapters or whatever else you're working on, it could be for, not novels. It could be all sorts of things, but let's just use novels as an example for right now. You're going to go to Add File, and let's just use these that we've already created here. So Chapter 1 Draft, you'll see it looks just like the text file. You can edit in here. You can do whatever you want. And this file here, these words here, just represent the original text file. So if you wanted to open up that original text file, you can open it up here. And these are both the same file. You're just seeing it differently in this view compared to this view. So if you make changes in one, those changes will appear in the other. Okay, so coming back to the manuscript, let's add a couple more. So chapter 2 draft. Now let's say you've got 20 chapters in here and you want to add a new one in between these two. Well, you're going to jump right in the middle here and you're going to add it like this. I'm going to do chapter 3, and then you might say, chapter 1, chapter 3, chapter 2. That's not in order. Or maybe you just want to change the order because you feel like the story works better that way. Well, you can do that. You can either do it in here by clicking these arrows. These will move the chapters up and down. That's nice. But even easier is if we switch to this list view. And here we have the files in our manuscript represented in a view that's much more meant for reorganizing, not the actual writing. So what we can do is take chapter 3 and drag it down and put it below. And, if you have, again, 20 chapters here, or maybe they're all scenes and you're reworking them all the time, this is the perfect view to kind of work with that. Another thing you can do is add a label color, and this helps for sorting and just keeping things separated. This label color, if we come back here, is now going to be represented in a couple ways. You'll see it on the left side of the file, but you'll also see it over here in this bar. The colors here represent each section by their label. So if we want to go down to the blue section, which we happen to know is chapter 2, we'll just click on the blue section of the bar and down we go. If you have, again, many chapters and you can't remember which one is which, you can click this little arrow right here and you will actually see the names of the chapters, and you say, oh, I wanted to go to chapter 3. You just click on it, and there it is. That is the main gist of the Manuscript tool. You have some other small options here, such as this tool to hide the headers. If you rather just see the text and you don't want any headers breaking it up, you'll see it just like this. And then finally, if we come to this download or export button, you click that, you'll see that we have options to export your manuscript. And you can include the file names and include separators, or you can get rid of those, depending on how you want to organize and to view it. You will also note that we have Word as an option now, and this is going to go for just plain text files too. So that is the Manuscript tool. Now let's go on to the next big overhaul of a previously existing tool, and that is going to be the card stack, or the cards. So as you can see, this card file looks pretty different from the original. So first thing you'll notice is that cards can now be sorted into sections within one cards file. So if we scroll down here, you'll see that section 1 remains up at the top until we get down to section 2 here. And then we have section 2, and then we have section 3. Now, if you want to reorder these, just like in the manuscript, you can press this arrow key, and now section 2 is at the top, then section 1. I'm going to put section 1 back at the top. When you open up a new card stack, you are going to see this plus button down at the bottom. This is actually how you will add new sections. So right now we have a section 7 with no cards. Let's add 2 cards to it, like that. This is the add card button, by the way. And now we want a section 8. So let's click add, and there it is, section 8. You can rename these, of course. So if you just click on the section header and you just type in chapter 1, whatever you want to do. And then we have this little control area right here, which changes the size of the cards. So if we hit the minus button, you get much smaller cards, which means you can fit many more cards on the screen. This is particularly helpful, number one, if you just want to visualize a lot of scenes or chapters or sections all at once. But it's also helpful just when you're if you want text taking up most of the screen and you can see many more cards than you previously could. And you might find that when you're filling up the content in the cards, you don't need much more than this to see either all of it or most of it. So let's make them, so this is back to the default size, and now that's the large version. So we just wanted to give you some variety in card sizes. I think a number of people requested that, and that was a great request. If you want to drag and drop a card from one section to another, that's no problem. You just grab the card in one section, bring it down, and then drop it into the new section. And if it doesn't end up exactly where you want, you can still drag and drop the cards in sections just how you could before. Now, the other big change that we made to the cards is, you'll see down here you have this little toggle, and that's going to switch the view into the vertical view mode. So as you might guess, you can see each section here represented by a vertical column. So each section gets its own column. And this is really good for when you want the information in each stack or section to be side by side. Again, you can change the card sizes just like you could before. You can reorder these with these arrows, so you move them over and they switch places like that. So this gives you just another way to visualize the cards. Now that pretty much covers the cards. One small thing is you'll see that they also now use the standard colors that are throughout the app. Okay, let's move on to the next file type we have overhauled, which is the outline. So as you can see, the outline file looks a little bit different. It's not too crazy different, but the main thing we've done is added the ability to drag and drop elements from one place to another. So we can drag and drop elements inside of their own little group here. We can drag and drop whole sections between each other, or we can drag and drop the entire header elements between each other. So hopefully this gives you much more flexibility when dealing with your outline elements. We really want this to foster a planning environment where you can change ideas on the fly, and we want you to be able to quickly and easily move things around. So let's move on to the next file type, which we've made some changes to, and that is the grid. So it's going to look very similar. You might see some changes to the context menu here and the colors. But other than that, the big change is that you can now drag and drop grid tiles. And you can drag as many as you want. So if we select multiple and then put them down here, then they appear there and they'll take on the size of that current column. Now I'm going to go over a few things we have done with the text file type. What you will notice is that in the formatting menu, we now have the strike through option. So as you already know, that this is what it does. A lot of people requested that. The other thing is that we've added indenting. So now you can use the tab key as you would in any other local writing program, such as Microsoft Word, and that should work for you. And down here, you will see the quote option. So you can create a quote block out of text. So let's say we want to do this one here, or just this whole line. You just go down and press quote, and so it's going to space it in the way that you would for a quote block. And as I mentioned earlier, for text files in this export menu or download menu, you now have the option to export using Word. And the last thing for text is, as you might be aware, the word counts appear down here when you have word count turned on. You may not have noticed, but the previous word count was actually fairly inaccurate. So we have updated that, and we have also added the ability to select a group of words and to see the word count for that selection. This will update in real time, so as you're highlighting, you'll see the word count go up or down depending on what you've selected. The one other file type we made some changes to is the Wiki, and they're not huge changes, but we did create the ability to add different folder colors to each category. And again, it's the same colors that we're now using throughout the whole app. So hopefully that's of use to you guys, but yeah. Okay, I appreciate your time very much. I hope this helps a little bit, and I will see you again soon.